Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. I'm down recording in we're broadcasting from the sanctuary again. I don't know if you probably can't tell, but man, does it look sharp. Had that pro wrestling on Saturday, and super excited to be unfolding and starting to open up again. Also, Don Haddad stopped by and gave me a t-shirt for Ellie's race today, and wanted to give a shout out to them for all the great work that they do. As you might know, I have grandchildren that are in a place where they had to mourn their mother, and Ellie's Place is a great resource for that. So support their race if you can, coming up on Saturday. It's one of the ways they make money and one of the ways they keep helping kids experiencing the trauma of losing a loved one. And also, again, a shout out to Dawn, who works for Ellie's Place. She gets us guests all of the time and is a great supporter, and we want to be reciprocal, have symbiotic relationships, and make sure that we support them as well. So Ellie's Race this weekend, it's on Saturday. Look them up on Facebook and find out more detail and help them make a little bit money to stay in the cause. All right, my guest today, my new friend Lucas. How you doing, Lucas?
Doing good. I am a little tired. I was telling you on the way in, I just played my first two shows in 2021. On Saturday night we played in Battle Creek, and last night I played in Hamtramck. I got in late both nights. In between the unloading and the late night, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot how tiring it can be to go and perform things.
I always tell everyone, I don't load in and I don't load out. I don't
help
you. You got to do it yourself. But man, it's such a huge task.
Right. It was so funny on Saturday night. So some of my bandmates, it was their first show, actually playing a show. And so one of the rules of thumbs, if perform music, is if you have a drum set, you try and get it off the stage so that everyone else, the next band, can get on. So I told all my bandmates, listen, everyone helps get the drums off the stage right away. And so they did a great job with that. The problem is they left all their stuff. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm grabbing extra guitars and keyboards and throwing stuff on my back to try and get it off in time. It was really funny. So next band meeting, we gotta talk about the protocol there a little bit better, because my back is a little too sore from all of that. So
yeah, the wrestlers weren't happy on Saturday night because they got to load out that stage, and it's these huge steel poles and all kinds it looks like a nightmare.
Oh my gosh, I've been there. I've had to move stuff like that. There's nothing fun about that part of things. You got to remind yourself in the moment, this is why we do it, right? Before you.
So, Battle Creek, that's west, and Hamtramck is east. And
right, yeah.
So you kind of covered the state there. How were the crowds?
On Saturday night, we played at the Music Factory, which is a place I played a number of times. I haven't played there myself too much, but usually it's kind of like a for fun crowd, So it was a little smaller, but it was a bunch of people who were just, you could tell, were loose and having fun, and that's all we wanted to have. Last night I played at the New Dodge Lounge in Hamtramck, which was really cool. It was one of those places I set up and there was nobody there at the time the doors opened. I was like, uh-oh. But then a bunch of people came in last minute. That was really cool, and that was probably one of the best audiences I played to, because everyone was silent when I was playing, and paying for every artist. They were just zoned in to listening to the music, and that was just really special and cool. Not what I expected on a Sunday night, but yeah. So,
well, we're going to come back to music, I'm sure of it, in a little bit.
Right.
Let's jump into you a bit. Where were you born and raised and go to school and all that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Charlotte area. I was technically born in Lansing, but grew up in the Charlotte area. I went to high school there, and then I went off and did a 4-year degree at a university in Jackson, Spring Arbor University. It's a private school.
Yeah.
Then I got a job out of college, and I went and worked east of Flint in Lapeer. And then I ended up getting to a place where I decided that I wanted to pursue music more as a full-time thing. And so at that point, myself and my partner at the time decided to make the decision to move here, right back to Lansing, partially because, a lot of reasons. We could talk about that, but we came back here in just last August. So I'm just about been here a year, which it kind of has flown by because a lot of that was spent inside my house, with COVID and everything. But yeah, no. So I love being back here. I live like right downtown's where I live. So, somewhere between the zoo and the lug nuts, I hear fireworks all the time. That's really the goal. So, yeah.
Nice. So, what'd you study at Spring Arbor?
So it's kind of funny. I did like a religious degree at the time. Like I was really driven to do ministry stuff, and like in life, you grow up like a certain set of things, and sometimes those beliefs and those things, they just transform over time. And so I end up going and working. When I was working in Lapeer, I was actually working at a church, doing like hands-on ministry with youth and stuff. And then I enjoyed it to some degree, but it was also really exhausting. And like there was legitimately a mental breakdown in my life to realize I was just doing the wrong thing, maybe even for the wrong reasons. And so, so it was a helpful degree. I read a lot. I mean, I like that. It helps to give good context for writing things. And like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't see the world the way I see it if it wasn't for my experiences there, both in spite of the university and also because of the university. So people always are like, did you like going to Spring Arbor? I'm like, it's like a kind of yes and no, you like some of the stuff you don't like is what makes you the person you are. So I don't know.
Is Spring Arbor like a religious private school?
Yep. Yeah. They're associated with the Free Methodist Church. So I would say they're not. Free Methodism is an evangelical religion, so I would say it's an evangelical university. It's not like Southern Baptist and like Liberty or something, but it does have some pretty really pretty conservative beliefs and stuff. Not everyone there, and I'm saying this if Spring Arbor finds this out, maybe they'll fire some people, unfortunately. But not everyone there who teaches and educates and stuff is totally in line with all their beliefs, and definitely not all the students. So like I said, like my friends, like we didn't necessarily always agree with most of the things the university believed about things, the way they would do stuff. But we actually like came together, became closer, like formed our opinions, formed our views of the world because of being in this university that we were like, I don't know about everything they do around here. Yeah. So
my daughter spent her first year at Loyola in Chicago, which is a pretty religious university too. But they let her like she could study any religion for her religion class that was required and things like that. Was Spring Arbor like that, or was it?
No, Spring Arbor definitely has like rules that are like legitimate. Like I remember there was a soccer player who like came out. I'm using this term because this is like living in a Christian university. It's gonna sound weird to someone who has no relationship, but came out as being like growing up Muslim. Like that was a big deal on my campus. So like everyone there, at least in a written way, in a like on paper, are all supposed to be Christian in belief. A lot of the people who go there aren't in a lot of ways. Like their parents are just really religious, so they got sent there, or maybe they're like just, they were willing to sign that paper, but it was just the university they got into, because a lot of Christian private universities kind of feed on like, people might have a hard time getting into different schools. So they are like, oh yeah, like, are you poor? We'll give you a bunch of grants and scholarships if you want to come and say you're a Christian and be on our campus and stuff. So it's like, it's a very sleazy thing, and I'm saying that, and I chose to go there at the time. Granted, when you're 18 and now I'm 25, in 7 years you can change a lot of beliefs. Maybe I wouldn't have done it, today. But yeah, no. So yeah, it's one of those things where there's like a code of conduct. It's one of those places like you can't drink on or off campus or during the summer, even if it's legal. Like I remember hearing someone got expelled for having a red cup in a photo. They don't even know what's in it, but they got expelled for that. But then I remember someone got in trouble for posting some racist things, and they got suspended for like 2 days. And it's like, okay, so we're expelling people over red cups and photos, but we're letting people posting racist photos like be fine. Yeah. But it's a money thing. At the end of the day, it's, if your parents are donors, you can get away with what you want. But that's, the whole
Okay. Let's go to something less controversial.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely less controversial.
So here's jail and court, skate park, the fair, right. Or what's the third? What's my fourth? Oh, family against narcotics meetings. Those are the 4 reasons I've gone to Charlotte the most.
Interesting. Yeah.
So were you a skater?
No, I wasn't, but I was friends with some of the skaters in high school. I was more in that group of people that like, I was a band kid, to be honest. And Charlotte's a great place to be a band kid. They have a really good band program. So
if I remember right, they do a lot of cool stuff. They have a band. Maybe their pom pom team is like really good.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that was just starting when I was like a freshman in high school. I think the competitive cheer team got like started going, and I remember like everyone was like, "Oh, we have a competitive cheer team. Oh, they're winning like regionals." What?
Yeah.
So they were just getting like a following going right as I graduated. But yeah, no, the music program at Charlotte, at least when I was there, I think it was like at a peak or starting to come down a peak, but it especially in like the 90s and early 2000s, it was crazy there. So yeah, it was very competitive, but a very good environment if you want to learn how to create, because you are around so many creative people at a young age. Like, I mean, my most negative experiences at Charlotte were very formative in my music too. It's kind of like Spring Arbor in that way. So yeah.
You just took it off for a long time, and now it's coming out as your music.
You got to have a reason to pay for a therapist at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, no, I mean, like that's the beauty about creating any kind of art, is that the experiences you have, good, bad, or somewhere in between, that's fuel. Like I make jokes when weird things happen. Like I had a lady like stop me in a restaurant to like try and say her little political spiel to me, and I just thought about, like, I texted some friends afterwards. I said, this is just songwriting fuel. That's all this is. Like everything is songwriting fuel at this point.
Right now, I'm really into TikTok right now and getting addicted to it, which is horrible. But that's what I'm saying. Everything's just another TikTok video waiting.
Exactly. There you go. That's exactly it. Yeah. One of my, the drummer and I are talking about like how like we're glad we aren't like 12 right now, because, you know, like every 12-year-old downloads a TikTok and puts something embarrassing. They get like 15 and they're like got 400,000, you know, views because they, you know, I don't know, whatever they do. I have thankfully not downloaded TikTok. I've stayed away from it because I know I would scroll for hours. But
yeah, stay away from it. Definitely stay away.
Yeah.
Unless you want to follow us, and then obviously get on it.
There you go. There it is.
So, thank you for all of that. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go into your projects?
I guess the one thing I'd love to say, this is a great transition point about when I was saying reasons I came to Lansing, right? Like, I think Lansing has a really unique experience for people to create in. And if you're a creator or on the verge of being a creator and you're watching this and somehow hear me say this, like, Lansing provides a lot of really unique opportunities from like location, because we're an hour away from Metro, we're an hour away from Grand Rapids. So you can trade shows of people there, you know, easily get into those scenes, but still be able to commute, you know. But also, like, there's a lot of really dedicated artists here. You know, I think like there's always ebb and flow in local scenes, but there's people here. I think, you know, one of the biggest things I want to see, I don't know if I don't want to be the pioneer of this, but I think we need more networking, more relationship in this community. But the way that happens is reaching out to people and saying stuff. And I know that, you know, at the end I'll do my whole promotion thing and stuff, but you know, if you are a creator in Lansing and I don't know you, like, send me a message. I'd love to just like know who you are and connect with you. But anyways, okay.
Yeah, that's a common theme with all of the artists that I have on the show. Like I had, I've had Stefano, who's like the opera singer. I've had Ludmila was just on the show. She's a classical pianist. I had Sarah Wallace, who's an opera singer too, or I think classically trained singer maybe.
Right.
And I've got Tori coming up, I think, in a couple of days.
Yeah.
I'm really interested what he's doing with Define Detroit.
Yeah, he's so cool.
That could be part of what you're talking about. There might.
We were saying that in the pre-intro that I met him because I was a barista at Starbucks, and he would come into my Starbucks regularly. So I don't know if he's going to see this, but this is my shout out for him. So hi, Tori.
But I mean, I think we could be spectacular if everybody would get together and build each other up.
Right, and that's the way that, like, in those big cities, that it is, you show up to other people's shows and they show up to yours and they share your craft. They're as passionate about it as you are, and as you can be as them. You can share that. There's no cap on love. There's no cap on shares on social media. You know, like so why not do it? Why not, you know, like someone's post or share it or listen to their song 1 time or 2 times or 10 times. Like, that just helps them and encourages them. So yeah,
I would also say. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's also, get out of that scarcity mentality. There's no fucking pie, man. No, it's abundance. No, everything's huge.
Well, and the problem is I said one of the things I want to talk about is mental health. Like every artist, I've talked to some artists that do things like on a huge level. And I look at it and I say, if I did that, that'd be making it. And they still have imposter syndrome too. They still feel like I'm not right to be doing this. Like, I don't know. And that creates a scarcity mentality. Reality is that that's just insecurity and shame embodied. And like one of the ways that you can grow as an artist, that you can take, not to hint at something later, but you take your dream to a vision, is to realize like, hey, like I have what it takes. I have something original, creative. I have room to grow, time to grow. And yeah, everyone loves good stuff. So let me just learn, let me just shape my craft, and there's enough room in the world for everyone to enjoy everybody's good art. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I can only have five artists I listen to or something. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
So let's examine imposter syndrome for a second. Would you like to define it, or do you want me to define it?
Yeah, I mean, you could tell me if I got it right, because I don't know. I don't have like a.
You're gonna get it
in
right.
Front of me. But like,
you're gonna get it right.
I mean, feel like you don't belong, right? Like, feel like that you are not equipped enough to do what you're doing. To feel like you don't have the tools at hand. You're like, really, people only like you. They're just putting it on for you. You know what I mean? Like, as a musician, I think about like, oh, I'm not really as talented as the people I'm playing a show with. Like, my songs aren't really as good. When people say you're doing good, they're just saying it because they're being nice. When people listen to your song or share it, it's just because they like you, but not the art you make. Or I don't know. I don't know what you want to add to that. I'd love for you to.
No, I think that's a great example and a great definition. It is that, feeling like you're an imposter in the space that you are. So whether you're a musician or an artist or a consultant or an entrepreneur, all of these, anybody could feel like an imposter. A mother, a father can even feel like an imposter. And a lot of times it comes from either a place of insecurity. For some reason you're not confident, or you're just kind of paranoid about that. What if they don't really like me? Because nobody wants to be delusional, right?
Some of the most important mental health work I've done in my life, like with therapy and stuff, has been unraveling the voices of shame that speak like direct to that space. Because like we all construct reasons not to. It's more convenient to not go after your dream than to go after it. So we all find great reasons to do that, and so a lot of the hard stuff I have to do is look at like my experiences in high school or college, or people growing up that were mentoring me and loved me, but they were just saying things that were actually really harmful along the way. And I didn't realize till, oh my gosh, years later, it's like, like one of the biggest things as an artist is like realizing that when you're young and people say are mean to you, sometimes it's because they're envious. And I'm not trying to say that like, oh, people are really envious of me, but there was definitely times where people said mean things to me because they didn't like me, because they didn't like I was good at what I was trying to do. And I took it as I wasn't good, went to that imposter place, and then shut my art into a box and wouldn't let it out because, they're right, and I didn't realize the own wounding in their life that they was taking it into their speaking into me. So
that goes to what we were talking about earlier with, we don't want to punch down, we don't want to punch sideways, we want to punch up.
I agree.
And we were talking about that offline. But just to catch everyone up, just saying, we've got to take care of each other a lot better.
Right.
And we all have to heal, but that doesn't mean there's a pie of healing either. You're not trying to steal my healing when you're healing. There's a lot of infinity in this world that we need to recognize.
Absolutely. We're infinite beings in a finite world. So learning to live in relationship with one another. That felt really evangelical of me to say, but I didn't mean it that way. So please don't do whatever you do to those people. Anyways.
Let's talk about some of your projects. Let's jump into that.
Yeah. So this has been, like COVID, this is the joke I make every night. So if you've seen me play live, you've already heard it, and you're going to hear it all summer if you come see me. But a lot of people spent COVID, downloading TikTok or making sourdough bread or whatever. And I am the kind of person who said, I think this is time for me to try and record some of the stuff I've been writing for years, because I was at that place where I've had songs that I play that are 7 years old. Even, I wrote a long time ago. And so I was like, maybe I should just try and do some demos of these songs. I said, I'll do 4. And I got going and just I'm a perfectionist when it comes to the recording side of things. So by the end of like 8 months later, I had 12 songs, 12, like 60 tracks a piece, like just these huge, things. And so I'm really excited because this week I'm going to be announcing a date and a name and stuff, things like that. So if you want to follow me on Lucas Powell Music, you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find me _Lucas Powell on Twitter. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me anywhere you find music. I have some singles out, but this week we'll be announcing an album release date, an album title names, things like that. But I released my first single back on June 6th called Firmament. Very, very sad kind of music, but like good sad music, and that like did well for what I wanted it to. I just released a new single last Friday called The Chippewa River. And those are both going to be on the album that's coming out. So I like the music I make's very, it's like indie, but it's like indie folk music. So kind of like, I like to say like, I would like to think I'm a younger Neil Young, but, or Bruce Springsteen or somebody like that. But maybe like more like if you know that kind of music, like Jose Gonzalez or Phoebe Bridgers or Noah Gunderson or whoever, Iron and Wine, that kind of people. I like those people. So yeah.
We've got a big poster downstairs that says, "What would Neil Young do?" And it's actually the second time his name's come up. It came up on yesterday's show too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I never grew up with him, even though I always knew who he was. And like I said, like my drummer is really he loves 60s and 70s music, like listens to original pressing records. That he has a ridiculous collection. And he's definitely been like, hey, you need to listen to Neil Young. Like between the music you already make and like these wonderful records I have. And I think he turned on the like really famous like 70s, like the Neil Young Crazy Horse live album. Mm-hmm. And just like put on like, I think Powderfinger. And like my mind was just blown. Like I've been listening to that album for like all summer. Like everyone else is listening to like whatever came out this summer, and I'm like listening to something from 1975. Like this is the best album I've ever heard. Like, so yeah, no. But I love that kind of storytelling kind of music. I'm probably a little less rock and roll sometimes than Neil, but yeah, I love him. He's great. So.
I was going to ask you your genre when you said sad music. I didn't know if you were some emo kid or something.
No, we're not as emo. No, I mean, we do like, it's kind of, I mean, this is the way I get people to listen, right? Let's go listen to it and tell me what you think it is, but like, it's like, it's definitely a fusion of like the very like, late 2000s or late 2010s teens, like indie rock stuff, but then with a lot of like acoustic, a lot of vocal tracks, a lot of finger picking guitar, it's very moody, I had someone last night say, I showed up to your concert emotional and now I'm crying because of you. So thanks. And like, so it's that kind of stuff. It's not depressing, but it's definitely like, grief music. It's, and there's some campy fun songs too that are going to be coming out, but a lot of it is it's very storyteller driven. It's very narrative driven. It's very that kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, I kind of skipped it when you talked about Spring Arbor and you talked about the studying of religion and a lot of reading that you were doing and how that prompted a lot of writing.
Right,
do you use a lot of allusional references back to?
I do. Yeah, and like a lot of people ask me, they're like, "Do you make Christian music?" Because there's a lot of I mean, I went to a religious university. Like that's and I've talked about it before is like, and this is like living in America, I feel like, and maybe some people won't agree with this, but like I feel a lot of people in America, especially a lot of like, young white people who grew up in white communities like me, like I'm in many ways like culturally Christian in the way that someone might be culturally Jewish, right? Like I grew up with all this Christian language. It doesn't even matter at the end of the day, like what I believe religiously. Like I know I went to VBS every summer. You know what I mean? Like I went to church retreats in the winter. Like I was in youth group, I played in the worship team. So I have all of this language that is religious Christian language. So like I use a lot of that in my music, but it's not because it's like stuff you'd sing in church. It's because in many ways, there's a really awesome historical tradition of people taking biblical language and telling their own story using that exact language, even when it's not a religious thing. And so for me, a lot of my songs, I will use like religious stories or religious language to try and describe something that's completely unreligious that I'm talking about. So like one song I play in my set, it's on the album, it's called Judas Iscariot. And like Judas is a really famous character in the Bible. If you don't know the story, it's because he betrays Jesus. And I wrote that song about a friend who betrayed me. And it's not because I was saying I'm Jesus and he's Judas Iscariot, but like just that emotion of like, why did you do it? That question that people have, you know, I think that's how I felt. And so that was the right story at the right time with the right song to all come together, you know? So so I use a lot of that language in my music. But if you listen closely, you realize I'm not really, it's not like, hey, here's a Bible, read it. You know, it's more like it's just the language I have to talk about my own story, you know, and to tell my story in a way that other people can be invited to share their stories in listening to my music. I mean, that's a big theme in a lot of my music is I want people to listen to it so they can, I don't feel the empathy of my music. They can feel like, you know, some music has made me feel. So, yeah.
Nice. So what are some of your other influences in your music? So and I don't say that the religion was an influence so much as the study of it.
Right. No, I think both are influential, because even just growing up with like very religious or believing in religious experiences and having like what you label as divine, I mean, those are very influential on the music too. But yeah, I think like, I mean, as much as like I could, you know, everyone names like a list of famous musicians. They love like my friends. I mean, my friends are really influential on my music, especially like I have a really good friend, Ben Coakley, Benjamin Rose. Go check out their music online. They're awesome. Part of a super awesome indie pop rock band from Madison, Wisconsin, Cat in the Hurricane. So if you want to check out them, they're really fun. But like they make completely different music than me in some ways. But like just having a friend that I send music to and they give me their thoughts. And just like our relationship, our friendship, just like can like influence that music, or like, and things like, you know, life events. I mean, going through breakups, going through, you know, family stuff. Everyone goes through family stuff. Like, you know, I mean, I write things about grief that I have from when I was little and my grandfather died. You know what I mean? Like, I guess a lot of it, like one of my favorite songwriters once said that writing music for him is like archaeology. He just digs deep inside and finds the stuff. And that's like how, for me, like a lot of it is honestly the most influential thing on the way I write music and stuff is like meditation and just like trying to understand what I'm feeling and then trying to find the right words to dictate that. And those are songs. So like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question well or not, but
I think it does. Yeah. So, you know, I lived in Grand Ledge for a while. And we were trying to rebuild it. They tore down our skate park the day before spring break. Fuck you guys for doing that. Sorry if we weren't supposed to swear on the show. I mean, that was a horrible thing to do.
But the show's titled every damn day, so like people know what they're getting into.
So we used to have these like skateboard concerts to raise money to rebuild the skate park.
Right.
And so we know tons of musicians from Grand Ledge, Charlotte, and don't ask me to name them all because it was so long ago. But big punk rock scene in Grand Ledge, which always surprised me.
I always see, my family would always go to the Log Jam for dinner, which I'm a little, like, if they're watching, they can know that I'm a little tired of going there. So, Dad, we got to choose something else. But, like, we would always see the posters as you go in, and it's always, like, 5 new bands I've never heard of playing at, like, the bottom, like the Masonic Lodge or something. Yeah. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Well, that sounds like our concerts.
Right. No, but that's fun. That's fun. That's I need to get out to those kind of things.
Yeah. The Log Jam. So you must know what the back of my head and shoulders look like then, because I sat at that bar quite a bit, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to run into you there.
Oh, no, I don't.
Not anymore? Okay.
I try to stay out of Eaton County, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand. Me too, honestly.
I'm a refugee. So,
yeah, I'm an Ingham all the way now.
What other projects? Anything else you're keeping secret from us?
No, right now a lot of it is the music stuff. I mean, there's flurry of new things. Like I'm definitely like I've helped out other people. I think you had Brian Knickerbocker on here who does drumming for a band called Two Face Wilson. I've been a part of some of the stuff they've done in the past. They're like Adam DeRocha, the lead singer. He's a friend of mine. We actually went to high school in Charlotte together, so we reconnected when I moved back here. But as far as Lansing stuff, I'm one of those people. It's like I moved into the city for the first time in the middle of COVID. So I'm just like trying to make friends, but a lot of it right now. is like just focusing on that music stuff. So yeah,
I think Stefan will get him to reach out to you too. He does some work in our studios here. He actually posted that when you were talking about wanting to meet other musicians. So I think that's kind of raising his hand saying he'd like to meet.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Don't be shy.
So we'll get you hooked up, but you got to come over here because there's especially like on Friday nights, if you ever have them available, we're trying to get a bunch of people together for something that I guess is the first time I'll announce it. We're going to call it Free for All Fridays. And one, it's free for everybody. So just come do it. But it's like an open mic, but also art supplies and painting and computers.
Cool. I love that.
Just hang out for several hours.
Yeah,
and have some
I love
fun.
that. I said to you before, like the stuff I know that y'all do is just so cool, and like I love that. It's just making a center point for people who need the and it's so often as artists, especially if you're living in an impoverished area or with not much resources, it's very limiting. Like it's amazing how many artists, it's because they can start with $20,000 their family gave them to start out. Like that's why they get to make it. It's not even a talent thing. So I don't know. I'm not like that. I didn't have the silver spoon.
But you're very much invited and very much will be welcomed.
I will absolutely make a point of at least making it one time. I guarantee. All right. Soon as you start it, I'll be there.
All right. But we'll keep talking about that.
Yeah.
So how would you kind of summarize what you're an important question I forgot before I ask you the next one. How close are you in your journey to starting to be able to make a sustainable living with music? Or do you still work at Starbucks?
No, I don't work at Starbucks, but I do have a day job. That's very flexible, thank God. No, I like realistically, like, and this is part of being a musician. Like if you're listening out there, you're 2 steps behind me and you're wondering like the reality, it's probably like 5 to 7 years for it to be a full-time career. Like, but the part of like, and this is the every damn day thing. I don't want to jump that question, but like part of it's
that's going to be the next question. So go ahead.
Well, so yeah, like what do you do every damn day to make that happen? You show up. I mean, you do the little stuff. Like you have to post on social media. You have to write new stuff. You have to do your practice every day. You play shows to 10 people. You know what I mean? Like, and you go through and you shake every person's hand and say thank you so much for coming. And like that's what it takes. It takes a lot of patience like that. And, like a lot of people are interested in the get rich quick. There's no such thing as I'm sure it's been said before on your podcast. There's no such thing as just like a big blow up, like just overnight sensation. It's just a lot of hard work that's finally realized. That's a cliche to say, but it's so true. Like, so if you want to like a lot, and like I've been at a place where like the day-to-day stuff, the dishes slip up in my house. I don't mop, like the floor is dirty. I remember I was like I was feeling really overwhelmed, like a lot of anxiety because I felt like I should have been doing this, that, the other music. My floor needed to be mopped. My cat had made a mess everywhere. And I started mopping and I really started to feel better because I realized I have to mop this floor to get to where I want to go in 5 years. Like that's part of this journey. So yeah, it's about, having a long-term vision and knowing, and then you're trying to find the small steps to get there. Because too many people, I've met too many people who go, hey, I started writing songs last year. I'm like, oh, they're cool. You have talent. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna record an album and tour the world. I'm like, oh, that's not how that works. It's gonna take time and patience. It's gonna take getting your music in front of the right people who believe in what you have, building a real fan base. Just because you have 1,000 followers on Instagram doesn't mean 1,000 followers care. It might only mean 5 people care. You know what I mean? But that's a great place to start. So yeah, for me, like I realized that like it's a long haul journey. Once you realize you have the talent, it's about being realistic about the timeline, and then realizing, yeah, it's not going to happen in 3 months. It's going to happen in a few years. Maybe if it happens in 3 months, I'd love it, but it's going to be a while. It's a long drive. So yeah,
it might, but probably not. It's super rare.
Right. Yeah. It's going to take patience.
I love that you said do the little things, because someone gave that advice for the first time on the show just maybe a week ago. And there's 2 phrases I really love. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and rivers are made of drops of water. There are no big things. It's all little things, And
Yeah.
if you remember that, I love that mopping story. I have to mop this floor to get to where I want to go.
I was pretty blessed a few months ago to get my music in front of someone I saw as really influential in the Michigan music community, and someone who's been part of some really like big songs like right now on the radio kind of music. And
Kid Rock is not influential.
It was
anymore.
not Kid Rock. I swear to God. If my music gets in front of Kid Rock, I hope he is. That's my goal as a musician. No, but someone who's a music producer that I look up to, and he gave some really good advice, really good affirmation about like what do you do day to day to get where you want to go or whatever. Like what to do with social media, how to treat every real song release, whatever, blah blah blah. And I got off the phone, and he had said you have a lot of talent to do this. And I thought about it, and I thought more and more about our conversation. I realized the things that will help me make it in this industry isn't even talent. It's going to be persistence, consistency, and discipline. Those three things. I'm sorry, not persistence, perseverance. I mean, persistence is important too, but being willing to go through all the times I feel disappointed and keep going, right? It's kind of like climbing a sand dune. Like you start going up, but you're sliding down every time. You just got to remember, like you can find little victories every day. It's the discipline to get yourself to sit down and work on your craft every day, because too many musicians have great ideas and they just let them sit in their head, and they maybe record one song, and they never come back to it. People have been really influential to me to do that kind of stuff. And yeah, and the consistency, being willing to make something that's good and put the time in that it takes to make something that's good, but then repeat it, rinse and repeat, and realize that like one of the things that guy said to me, every impression is a first impression until you're massive. So treat every release, treat everything you do as it's your first time talking to your audience, because somebody is going to be seeing it for the first time. That was really freeing advice for me as a musician to realize, hey, you know what? All my screw ups in the past, those are not most people that will eventually listen to me. They're not even going to know about that. I can start on a new impression, but yeah.
Deleting your Instagram account every 3 months.
Oh, I archive everything. I archive promotion stuff for the first single. It's the beauty of social media is you can make things disappear really fast.
And I mean, man, I go back 2006, so 15 years on Facebook, and hey, anybody going to the skate park today?
Yeah, I get every now and then I get a memory on Facebook, and it's like, oh, that's definitely 7th grade Lucas. Like,
oh, my bad thing was I was still 39 at the point. So
I won't tell you how old I was.
I know. You guys are young. So I love that advice: perseverance, discipline, and consistency. Very good advice.
And it's not just art; it's everything. It's getting. Yeah. If you have a dream and you want to make it a vision, like that's what it takes. I always use the analogy of a bagel shop. Like you can make a really good bagel, but it doesn't mean you have a successful bagel business. It takes getting a bagel in front of, like, your friends and family might buy your bagel, but if they're not bagel people, they're not gonna be interested in your bagel business. You gotta create. Got to work on building the blocks, raising the money, getting the bagel in front of people who care about bagels. I don't know why bagel became the thing for that, but yeah, I mean, it's true. It takes time, and it takes patience. It takes, consistency and persistence, those things I said. So yeah.
Man, I wish I had the quote still in front of me. I'm actually going to look for it. The one thing that you've got me thinking about is the entrepreneur who sits there every Thanksgiving telling his family about his new app or his new business or whatever. And it never happens. It's always in their head. And the end of the quote that I'm going to look for, but I'm not going to look for it now, ends with, and goes to the grave with that song still in their heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you ask me, what else are you doing with the music? This is the first time in my life I don't have 9 Phantom projects to work on, because I know the capacity I have right now, work on one thing. And I love these people who you have on your show that do 17 different things. I don't have a clue how they do it, because I barely have the energy to do one thing well. And so, yeah, especially if you've never, I don't want to say if you've never been successful at something, but if you haven't been able to see a vision through to or a dream through to a vision, a vision through to a success or whatever, it might be a sign there's too much stuff on your plate. Like take it off and work on one thing. And once you get really good at a thing, you can bring other things on. But yeah, when I was younger, I would always be making up some different pseudonyms. and like pretending they were bands. And I'm writing a song for this one now, and I'm writing a song for this one. I'm writing a song for this one. Oh, I'm gonna host this thing. I'm gonna do, and like it was just so much that I couldn't even focus on. I mean, that was part of me getting into music. I was having a mental breakdown because I was so overwhelmed with the job I had at, especially at the church, and there was other things involved there. But it was like, I'm not doing the thing I love. Like I keep saying I'm gonna do it, but playing coffee shops is really unfulfilling at the end of the day. Like when you're writing stuff that you believe is worth putting in front of people and saying like, hey, this is real art, like listen to it and you'll enjoy it, you know? So yeah, like, I mean, like they took a realization that I need to take everything off my plate. So music, I have a hard enough time going to do my 20-hour-a-week job because it's tough for me to sacrifice that time, you know, but again, it's the mopping the floor thing. You got to realize that's part of what's going to get me to where I want to go to, you know, is clocking in, put a name tag on and doing the not fun stuff in life. So, yeah.
Especially if you're leading the way. I mean, the very first big event we had at the Fledge was about 400 people as an after party for the Capital City Film Festival. And one thing we hadn't done in the 3 weeks that we had owned the building was flush the toilet 1,000 times. And it started backing up. And who had to mop? Who was everyone's first introduction to Jerry at the Fledge? Me. I was the mop man. And I got to know a lot of people about how they treated janitors, you know, because they might not have known me and were super disrespectful and mean. And I just kept mopping and said, I'll note that for later.
Well, and that's a great note. If you are, and I don't, like, if you're a creative out there and you're like, I'm having trouble booking shows, I'm having trouble getting bands to want me to open for them, like, ask yourself if you're a good person and if you're nice. Because, like, you know how many local bands I played with and over the years that they are, you know, great, very talented, better than I am in a lot of ways, and they are just absolute D-bags. And they're like, I literally look at them and I say, your ego is what's going to keep you where you are forever, because just by smiling and shaking a few hands and authentically like caring about the people who support me, like the next time I play, more people show up because they are like, oh, not only do I like what he does, he's a nice guy, you know? So, and all the people I've seen go from the level of, hey, I'm a local musician to like, I'm doing this. Like I have a band of mine that's from Michigan that like is playing like every major festival. They're like the little print, but they're playing every major festival in the US this year. Like the guy who does that is like probably one of the nicest people. I've heard people say he's one of the nicest people I know. The way you do that is just by being nice, and people will care about your craft a lot more when you're nice than when you're just a jerk and you're like, yeah, I'm too cool for you. Come listen to me. Like, I don't know. So I think you win a lot more when you treat people with respect and dignity. And you look at them and you say, you're a human, and I care about you, even if I don't know you, even when I disagree with you, and try and find a room for them in your audience. Find a room for them. Find a seat for them. You know?
As someone who owns a venue, two things really bother me. One is when bands are up here playing, and a lot of times the small, you know, local punk rock bands or whatever, it's only the other bands that are here, and they all go outside to smoke while the other band's playing, and it pisses me off. I go out and yell at them all the time. The other thing is when a punk rock band complains that the monitors aren't working right, I immediately downgrade them to emo. They're not punk rock anymore
because they're crying about it. No, I mean, we play, like, I feel bad. Like, I hate, that's one of the bad parts of being an opener is a lot of times you miss the first few songs of the headliner while you're packing the stuff in your car. You know, like that happened to me Saturday. Yeah. And like, you know what happens is you miss when the people say, hey, you know how great that opener was? How about give it up for him, and you're outside? Like, that's the most embarrassing thing that can happen. But no, I think like that's another thing is whenever you book a show, you're making a commitment to support the other people who are supporting you by putting you in part of it. So like last night when I was at Hamtramck, the show went to 11:30. It's a long drive back, but I was like, listen, I love these people. They make good music. They let me come down here and bore them to death for half an hour. So like, I wanna support them. I'm gonna order a beer and sit in the back and cheer them on. You know, nice loud buy a T-shirt if I can afford it. So, yeah, I know. That's what builds a real community and a music scene is that kind of attitude.
That's right. Thank you for all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we daisy chain these shows together. Yesterday on the show, I had Karen, who's a social justice activist, or advocate. We were going between the two words. She's
it's
an
cooler
activist.
than musician, honestly. I feel that way about it, authentically feel that way about it.
But in your music, you can also do that work.
That's true.
Right?
That's very true.
And her question to you is, what are you doing to build bridges?
Right. Yeah. Well, and some of it we talked about. Like I think like when you look at bridges, like there's a number of things come to mind. Like one of the things is finding peers and incorporating them. So part of that is like the stuff we've talked about a couple of times, like the music community stuff. So trying to meet people. Like I met my whole band by using the geotag of like Lansing, like just on Instagram. And I saw someone playing drums, went, that person's cool, and sent them a message and said, hey, I really like what you do. And they're my drummer, guitar player, same thing. So trying just like being willing to go out and build that kind of bridge, that kind of networking bridge, and not just for networking reasons, because it's good to support people who make things. We want people to make things in our world. But when I look at like the overall, like in community, like some meta questions, I think one of the biggest things is being an invitational person, not an uninvitational person. And what I mean by that's like, I think so often, like with music, people like to be niche. They like to be like, only certain people who look a certain way come in and listen to us. Only certain people a certain age listen to us. I went to my first show way back in June, and it was artists I really like, and there was a lot of old people there, and it was very full, but they're young people my age making music like me. And I thought about how often the dream for some people just like leaves out people who might really like your music. Like there might be an 80-year-old man who really wants to come and listen to you do what you do, and like how often we're like, oh no, we just want cool people here, whatever. So like for me, like a big thing I think about a lot in my music is like, how do I invite? I even have a song that talks about this. It's like, how do I find room at the table for everyone? Because I wanna have people of every background, like, and I'm not just talking race and sex and gender, or social, any type of like social class or whatever, but also like age, how do I invite those people to come and enjoy my concert? Sometimes it's my friends' moms who enjoy my concerts the most, as much as like, peers enjoy them, they come and so like, I'll think about a lot about how do I put on a good show for them, but like also a meaningful show. How do I invite those people to listen to the art, let the art affect them, let it do what it does, to a 20-year-old, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know.
See,
I don't know if I answered the question well, but
I think you did, because, well, I've got a couple comments. I love that phrase, invitational person. In our model at the Fledge, we invite and attract. That's the first thing we have to do. Then as soon as we invite, we have to welcome. And as soon as we welcome, we have to include, because there's a journey that you go on to kind of get to being part of a community. And if you're not invited or not welcomed or not included, you're never going to get to that community. We love cats, by the way.
This is my cat. I would pull her up here. I can't reach her though. Sorry. She just loves to scream. She's the loudest cat ever. Oh, no, don't do that. She's pulling the cord off.
That happened I can't remember why it happened, but a kid, I think, pulled all the plugs out the other day.
Oh no.
But I like the, in building bridges, sometimes we think, hey, kitty, what's the kitty's name?
Her name's Juju.
Juju. Hi, Juju. We look at a bridge between you and I as just a single bridge, right?
Right.
But it's really not. It's a bridge for both of us to use at different parts in our journey, right? We might need that bridge at some point. Maybe you need a place to record. Maybe you need a venue. Maybe I need a band to open up or to close or to play at a festival.
Like even today, someone I know has the email of someone else I want to know. So just be able to send them a message, just like, hey, do you have that email? Can I like have that email? Just because I've been nice and made a relationship, shook a hand, said, literally cared about the person, supported their art, like, come through with an email for me, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I mean, that's what like success is built on, is those kind of connections, because 90% of the time, the people who are going to be the front row are the people who are making stuff like you. But then and you're right. It goes beyond just like the trying to get stuff done too. I mean, as a community, if you want to build a community, obviously like in Lansing, we're going through a season of violence in this community that is just unfortunate. I live in a neighborhood where like I want to know my neighbors, and it feels like specifically my neighbors don't really want to know me. And I think about how better our neighborhood would be if we could just, accept the cookies I dropped on your front porch, or like, say hi when we're walking down the street next to each other. Our community would thrive. It would thrive off that kind of love for one another, unconditional love. I mean, that's the right way to say it. And, but I think about that all the time. I think about my community, my physical community would be better if we could build those bridges and then say, hey, John's got a lawnmower because yours broke down or whatever. Like that's that kind of stuff too. So, yeah.
Whenever you have this dream and you're trying to turn it into a vision and you get on that mission, you've got to go over this valley of death. Sometimes it's very small if it's a small dream. Right. Sometimes it's very big if it's a big dream. And the best way to get over a valley is to build a bridge.
100%.
Unless you're Evel Knievel, then you can try to jump it on a rocket.
When he said that, all I could think of is someone else I know saying, part of making it in the music business is just being a little delusional about yourself all the time. I love that because it's true. It's true about vision. You got to have a little bit of delusion.
That's the balance, though, with the imposter syndrome, too.
Right. That's the way you balance out. You got imposter syndrome over here and delusion over here, and somewhere in the middle, you're just you. So.
That's funny. So tomorrow on the show, I've got Katie. She's into education. She's into music. What would you like to ask her?
So my question, I told you just before, is at what point did your dream go from just a dream to a vision? So like from something you would talk about at Thanksgiving around the dinner table as, oh yeah, I got the new app idea, to like, oh, I'm gonna take the leap of faith. I'm gonna take a jump. I'm gonna put something into it. So. Yeah, it'll be fun for her to answer. She has a lot of stuff she does, so it'll be fun for her to have to balance.
I think it's a great question because I'm going to get to know her in a different way than if I didn't have somebody asking a question like that. And that's nobody's ever asked that question before. I think there's been some close, like when's that moment you knew that it could be real or it was going to be real, but I like the way you're phrasing it there.
Right. I want the step before it's real because it's easy when it's real. I want the step where you say, I need to take a little leap of faith and try something. Yeah. I need to take a step off.
So why don't you give us that answer?
Right.
I flipped the question.
Right. For me, it happened in December of 2019. Like I said, I had a mental breakdown. I was super depressed, super anxiety, borderline like wrestling with like suicidal thoughts. And if you're someone out there who's listening, you have that kind of thing, there's the national call line and seek out help and stuff like that. But struggling with that kind of stuff, and then had a therapist who was awesome, got help. Help was really good. And at one point, my therapist said, if you didn't work where you worked, I would probably tell you to quit your job and go after what you care about. As I was walking out of a session and I got in my car and started driving along and just like that thought just kept sitting with me of like, why did he say, if it wasn't you, I would tell you to quit your job and go after what you're going after. And it sat with me for like 2 weeks and we had our next session and I came back and said, why did you say it that way? And for some reason, like I don't know, like that just opened a whole conversation about like, maybe I'm taking what's my passion and telling me myself it's gonna be okay as a hobby. And so for me, I realized like it was a legitimately like, for me, it was a mental health barrier. Like I was suffering in life because I was just living in the imposter syndrome, living in the shame that I had, living in this really unhealthy place mentally. And so for me, it was freeing from that suffering to some degree. I mean, everyone, when you have depression, it's seasonal, it can come back and stuff. And I still wrestle with those kind of things. When life's tough, it's tough. But taking that step away from this and realizing part of that was a step towards freedom. Like that's been a big word for me, is like freedom from, expectations, freedom from my shame, freedom from those things. And that was part of what made me go, you know what I need to do? I need to go after this for once in my life. Like I'm young, I got nothing to lose. I love this. I make good art. Why not take that step off the wall? And it was tough, but it was amazing when I started. The hardest part was telling people in my life, hey, I think I'm going to go after this. And there were some people who were like, I don't know if you can do it. And I was amazed how many people were like, I was waiting for you to take this step. I was waiting for you to finally go and love yourself enough to go after your vision. So I'm still like 5-7 months or a year later from having those conversations and still running on the on that energy of like people being like, I'm so excited for you to do what you care about. Like you know, so I don't know.
Yeah. It's almost like the Muslim guy that came out in the Christian school. You know, you had to come out as a musician at some level and have that courage to say, I am.
As someone with a lot of privilege, like I'm really careful about, you know, equating my own personal suffering to that of like LGBTQ people whatever. But like to some degree, yeah, I have some empathy like to that experience, because it was like with all the religious, honestly, I would say religious trauma and some of the like the emotional trauma I have in my life, it was like a, hey, everybody, I need to let you know, like, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. Like the things that I've been telling you was what I cared about for a long time. Like it's fine stuff, but it's not my stuff. Like my stuff is doing this. So, and it's not been an easy path since then, but I can tell you up here, I've been the healthiest I've ever been because of the freedom to like feel like I can chase after what I care about. When I prioritized that in my life, things started to fall in line in other ways. And that was amazing for me. It was amazing how out of line my life was because because my dream was just a dream. It was something I'd talk about Thanksgiving or write in journals a million times over. It wasn't a vision. And now that it is something as a vision, it's just like, you know, I don't mind being sore and tired after a weekend's full of games.
You know, when you come to the Fledge, which I know you're going to, and you and I are going to sit and talk, I talk about how life knocks you off tilt. You're born to be one thing, but things get in the way and people tell you you can't do that and you're never going to make a living, or that's a great hobby for you. Yeah. And that gap right there is what people fill with substances and violence and depression and suicide. And we have to get back to closing that gap.
That is literally my experience. Yeah.
And I could just, you know, first of all, I put the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline up again.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
800-273-8255. We lost a very dear friend of ours to suicide just a few days ago. Her funeral was yesterday, and we're all still devastated by it. Yeah. And so thank you for bringing it up, and thank you for saying that was me, and I needed to do something, because we're all vulnerable. That was me when I was 27, me. Yeah. And that was a long time ago. But
and it's important to use the word survivor. Like we're survivors of that, you know, because because I reached out and got help when I needed it, you know, or had people who loved me to get me help when I needed it, you know. So it's if you're even on the cusp, if you're in passing thoughts, it's worth giving a call or getting help or telling somebody. So
And if you're alone, you feel isolated, you need something to do, our door's open. We're here. So I learned a lot about me in the last week, or the last few days, really reflecting on Becky and all that happened. And we're going to do something about this. So thank you for motivating me even more, Lucas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So happiness, sadness, joy, or hope? What a question to ask afterwards.
And you know what I'm going to say. So it's like, this is getting real heavy right here. So I hope our audience is enjoying it. But I'm going to choose sadness. And you said, I'm going to say, even though I'm sure it's been said, you said it before, but like sadness is the most important because you can't have the other three without it. And for me, the reason I'm choosing sadness is because for me, if we're talking about my music, it is sad music, but it's not just sad to be sad. Like this is not just like a prop. Like my music's my journal. And so for me, art is a way for me to process emotions. I went through a really unexpected breakup about 2 months ago, and it was devastating. It shattered my life. It was someone I was with for 6 years and someone I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. And I didn't know what to do, was a mess for like 2 or 3 days. And then my best friend came out of town and we looked at each other and they said to me, what are we going to do? And I said, we have to write music. Like that's how we're going to get through this. And so we sat in my living room and we spent like 8 hours a day for 5 days, no more than that, like 12 hours a day for 5 days, just dictating words to like 4 songs. Because for me, the music is so like the sadness, like it's so healing to the sadness, because to find the right way to say what I'm feeling, put those words there, is so cathartic. It's so helpful in the grief process. And so for me, like listening to sad music does that for me. It helps me. I hear a line, I go, that's exactly how I feel right now. And yeah, I don't know. I think sadness is a really healthy thing. We need to not be scared of it. I mean, part of life is it. And I think when we can accept the reality of that and accept that, like, unfortunate suffering is part of life, but it also, like, we have the valleys so we can have the mountaintops, that can be really freeing too, you know, like letting yourself be sad, letting yourself cry, letting yourself hurt. Like sometimes that's the right thing, you know. So there are times where we are made to, this is the only thing I can do is be hurt right now. The only thing I can do is be sad. The only thing I can do is be angry, you know, about it. So yeah, I think like having healthy seasons of that in your life, that's how you live a balanced life.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I also like it because it's okay to be vulnerable. And I'm going to say it again. Your new
1000%.
strength does not come from your old strength. Your new strength comes from your vulnerability.
100%.
And yeah, I love the way you're talking.
Yeah, and I think especially as an artist, like the way that you will get to people isn't it's by saying what's real. It's about opening up what you have, because that's the thing that makes your art most unique. It's not going to be a sound or anything. It's going to be your voice and your what's ever in here. You know, like those are the things that will leave the thumbprint of what you create, and that's true outside of music too. But I'm talking through a musician's lens. Like that's what you have to give the world, is what's inside. So open it up, and you'll be surprised how many people go, wow, that's exactly how I feel too. Thank you for sharing that. That was important for me. I mean, so.
We all have quite a bit in common that we don't like to recognize.
100%. Yeah. No one likes to be the first person to open up about it, but it's amazing once you do it, you know, hundreds others come along.
Well, I think that's part of the importance of storytelling. Part of the importance of art and music is that being the first out there and saying, shit, I can relate to that.
That's why I want to make, I mean, that's one of the biggest things I want to make is music that makes people have those opportunities and have that healing through like when I suffer and I write a song about my suffering, I want to write it so that someone can hear it and go, that's how I feel too. There's someone else out there that feels like I do. I mean, that's one of the huge reasons why I'm so passionate about music and about what I make. So,
yeah. I had a guy, Christopher Kaminsky, on the show. He does the church, or he's working on a rock opera, a heavy metal opera.
I watched this for just a little bit. The Church of I can't remember what it is. Deity. Yes, I watched like 5 minutes of it.
Yeah.
I was like, I was so interested. I was thinking about, because that wasn't that long ago, right? And I was like, I'm going to be such a polar opposite Christian college kid.
So he talks about his depression and how he can't work on his music during that time because it's so debilitating to him. Any thoughts on that, or did you just? My gosh.
Well, no, I do have seasons like that. I write sad music, but it doesn't mean there's not seasons where it's tough to get there and do it. And I've learned more and more. That's the discipline part of thing. Discipline never happened. You don't get up. No one works out every day and works out because they want to. Like that's because they roll out of bed and they make it happen. And I feel that way about my music. Like I've more and more gotten the mentality of like, even when I feel the crappiest, I feel like I have nothing to give. Sometimes that's the moment I need it the most. And so and there's definitely times I sat down to write a song. And I'm like, I have no clue what I want to write about. And that's when I know that I'm going through depression. I'm going through a block. There's something wrong here. And so for me, it's just so tied. It definitely still is like that. I'm not going to say that I'm perfect every day. There are definitely weeks where I get nothing done because of debilitating depression. But so a lot of times the way I get out of it is forcing myself to a keyboard, forcing a guitar into my hands, forcing my journal in front of me and vomiting whatever I've got, even without an agenda of it being good, just getting it out for myself, you know? So, yeah.
Did we forget to talk about anything?
I don't think we did. I think we got everything.
Covered it all.
Yeah. All of our bases in a perfect amount of time.
I think you're great, Lucas. I'm really glad to get to know you on the show here.
I'm glad to meet you too.
And we've got more stuff to do in front of us. I know that. So we'll keep communicating, but thank you for taking the time and being on the show. And actually, this is the second time. Nobody knows about the mishap maybe. But yeah, thanks for being having the perseverance. I'm glad you're flexible, or you were flexible about it, and 100%. Excited to come on the show. So and we'll share more of this and get more of your SoundCloud and all that out there. And we're looking forward to the album release and all of that.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to thank you for telling your story, coming on the show, and being a storyteller for people.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me. I love what you're doing here.
Thank you. What would you like to take us out with?
Yeah, if you've resonated with some of the stuff that's I've talked about today, I'd love for you to reach out to me personally if you're a musician or artist in the Lansing area. But if you're just want to consume some good art, some meaningful art, I'd like to think. You can find me, Lucas Powell Music, on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, _Lucas Powell. And you can find me anywhere you listen to music. So Amazon Music, Apple Music, Spotify. You can find my first 2 singles out right now. Follow me this week. We're going to have big announcements throughout the week, some big stuff coming up. So yeah, I would be honored. It'd be the number one way you can love on me today is by going and following that stuff. So thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you all of you.
It's really _Lucas Powell?
On Twitter it is, yeah, _ Lucas Powell. Everywhere else it's Lucas Powell Music, but...
All right, I just want to get this right before hit it, and then thank you again. Every damn day at 2, and we will see you all tomorrow. And thanks again, Lucas. I appreciate you much. Stay with me for